Hello my friends, welcome. My name is Jackie. I'm going to take you step by step through a really beautiful painting today. And of course you don't have to finish it all in one sitting. A lot of times when I'm painting, or most of the time when I'm painting, I do it in different stages, so maybe even taking up to 2 weeks or more of painting. This is a little, we'll get through it today in an hour, but always, have the opportunity to, we always have the opportunity to work on it later. Hi Carol, welcome back to Plymouth. Hi Sarah. But yeah, so in this painting, just kind of have fun with it, make it your own. I'm very excited to be doing this one today. I'm going to be using acrylic paint, and the colors I'm going to be using white, black. I have a bright green and a dark green, yellow, red, and purple. Also, because of our background, we're going to paint our whole background first, and I suggest grabbing a blow dryer if you have one. It is warm out, so it will dry fast, but yeah, grab a blow dryer, a hair dryer if you have one, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Again, my colors today, I'm going to be using white, black, brown, red, purple, yellow, and I have 2 greens. If you just have 1 green, grab like a dark blue as well, so you can mix it to make a darker green. And we'll get started in just a few moments. Also with my setup, I'll just turn it. And so if I were sitting painting, I would have my palette of paint right in front of my easel, just so I have easy looking up and down at my colors. I also have something that I can wipe my brush. Hi Nancy, how are you? Are you painting tonight, Nancy? But something for to wipe your brush off on. I usually have brown paper, but I also have these tear off paper placemats, which I love and come in handy, so I just use that today. I also have, I'm out of paper towels, so I have my rag, which works I think even better than a paper towel, my water cup, and if I were painting sitting down, my easel would be right here. Awesome, Nancy. Looking forward to it. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask throughout and send me pictures and questions after. And with my canvas, or with my supplies, I also have my brushes. I'm going to be using just a big chip brush for my background. I have a couple flat brushes. Anything will do that you're comfortable with. I always find that for each painting I have like favorite brushes, and then maybe for my next painting they don't work well for what I'm doing. So you'll kind of find, you'll figure out what you like. I also have a detail brush, and it's a round detail, just a nice small brush, just to get some nice little details in. Also, if you weren't here in the very beginning, if you have a hair dryer, if you want to grab that, just so we can get the background dry, because we're going to paint the whole thing and then put our basket on top of it. It is warm out, so I'm sure our paint will dry really fast, but we can just hurry it by adding that blow dryer. Alright, so here it is. So in this painting, it's very, I really enjoy it. Layers, being patient with letting things dry, using your hand to really kind of find your placement of your items. Lots of layering in my basket to make it have that texture. Of course, the little decorative piece here, I've seen all different kinds of little pieces. Mine's a little whale. I'll show you how to do that. But I think there's like little shells, or you could do a boat, or like a sand dollar would be pretty. You can do whatever you like. What else? Our flowers. My flowers, I have some red, I have some white, and I have like a little pinky purple. Whatever you would like for colors as well. Yeah, just wanted to kind of go over it real quick, but I think it's beautiful and it's fun, so let's do this. All right, I'm going to start with my background. Now, I decided to really not have like a harsh line, table line. It's kind of like all just kind of washed out. I do have some shadowing underneath my basket to give it some weight, but there is no like table top line or like a horizon line or anything like that. So it's really pretty. So I'm gonna grab my big brush and let's get started. So I'm going to start with back and forth brush strokes going right to left. I'm going to load my brush with white paint, and I'm also going to add just a tiny little bit of black, and I'm going to see what happens, and then I can, you know, add more white or more black, whatever we think we need. And I'm just going to let it kind of marble mixed right on my canvas. All right, here we go. And like I said, if you're like, you know, painting and you're like, I need to take a break, please do. I'll repost this once it's done, and you can always watch it again and pause it. And when I was painting, I wanted to tell you guys, I was working on a painting yesterday, and what was I gonna say? And you know, I was like, this is like such an ugly stage of my painting, but what's kind of cool about painting is you have to kind of, or with art, you have to be okay with those ugly stages, with those hard stages that you're not quite sure how to figure out. You know, should I give up? No, you got to work through it. So just be comfortable in the ugly stages, and you'll be fine. Just work through it. So I'm allowing there to be some nice lights and darks. You could play with your brush stroke if you'd like. You could have more of like a wispy brush stroke, or you could have more flat. Mine's just back and forth. Again, lights and darks, just adding some interest. I'm definitely going to need some more white. Let's see. All right. It ended up turning out to be a pretty day. A little warm. I can't wait to paint with you guys in person so we can like have a conversation. Instead of me just talking. But it's been really wonderful painting with you all, even if we're apart. I'm just moving down. Maybe you can get a little bit darker as you go. I'm going to grab some more white paint. Grab this. So white and black. Maybe getting a little bit darker down here if you'd like to kind of give it a little bit of weight. Don't overthink it. I have some canvas showing. I want to go and take care of that. If you're painting the sides of your canvas, bring everything over to the edge. Thankfully, in this painting, I mean, maybe there's a few little spots over here that I'll wrap around, but there's not too much, so that's good for me because I always forget. You know that. Thank goodness for frames for cleaning up the edges. So white, a little bit of black. And as we're going, because it's so warm, I'm sure up here is starting to really dry, but if you have a blow dryer, go for it. Any puddles of paint on there, smooth it out. I'm going to leave my shadow. I'm going to leave my shadow down here for later. Once I put my basket down, we'll add that. But for now, I'm just going in. I'm going to add a little bit more black, and I'm just going to focus down here just a little bit more. Just adding a little bit of weight. And I think that looks pretty. Anywhere that you want to touch up, this is the time, because if you were to touch it later, it just looks like kind of like a patch. So I think I'm going to add a little bit more right here on mine. Alright, I think I'm happy with that. A lot of it is going to be covered. But for now, I think we'll just sit and watch some paint dry. Grab your blow dryer if you have one. And we'll get started on our basket in just a few minutes. We'll just give it a quick little dry. I'm going to be using, for my basket to draw it, I'm going to be using my flat brush, my long. So it's a smaller flat brush. I'm gonna wash this guy right now. Ooh, how nice. Won't have to wash it after. It's so important to take care of your brushes, but sometimes like at the end it's like you're just tired and want to just walk away, but it's so important to take care of them. You'll really be happy the next time you use them when they're nice and clean and not hard and all that. So take good care of your brushes. Once you wash them, lay them flat. And I know you all know this, but speaking of brushes, so here's our white grip. When I'm cleaning it, I don't want to stand it up and scrub it, because that's going to blow out my bristles, because we want it to stay as tight as we can for as long as we can. Always wiping on both flat sides. Alright, so just a minute or two and we'll get started on our basket. Oh yeah, it's drying. So we have a good lineup. If you guys saw the our little calendar, I think we have a good lineup of paintings coming up. I'm excited for them. And I have a mermaid that I'm working on right now that I think is Monday. I could be wrong, but which will be fun. Alright, let's get cooking. Alright, so I'm going to be using my small flat brush, and I'm going to be using that edge. So ice skate, think of ice skating, your canvas is the ice, your blade of your ice skate is flat on your canvas and you're just sliding it. With this one here, I'm going to use my finger first, and it's an easy, fun shape, right? It's kind of like a big U. Think about how it's going to be sitting on the table or wherever this is sitting on. So it goes down, kind of rounded, kind of flattens out, and then goes back up, rounded. We're going to add a flat top. I will have my rim of my basket. And when we go back into adding all our detail, we will have I can't think of what it's made out of. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I'll think of it, the word. But anyway, it's going to be kind of like bumping out, right? So we want to have some texture and some bumps on the sides. So that's great. We don't have to make it super straight or just be, just have fun with it. So here we go. I'm going to start by adding my first shape of my basket. I'm going to dip into the brown. I could do brown and white. Maybe I'll do brown and white instead of white on both flat sides. Just kind of picturing it, how far down, how I want it to be sitting in my my canvas. I want there to be plenty of space, you know, 1-2 inches on the sides or so, just to feel comfortable in its place. Having some space from the bottom, if it was touching the bottom of my canvas, maybe it wouldn't feel as happy sitting there, right? So I have some space. All right, so we felt it, we looked at it, we know where we want our basket. Now I'm just going to do one kind of swoop with my finger. Remember, it's a curve. It kind of flattens and it curves back up. You can do this in stages. It does not have to be one swoop with your brush. All right, so I'm going to start like here. And you know what you can do is we can take a measurement. Now that I just decided that this is going to be like kind of like the top of my basket, I can take a measurement if you have a ruler or if you have your long brush. So now I know tip of bristles to where my fingers are is where this point is. So I'm just going to move it over here. So I have the guesswork taken right out of there, right out of that. So I know that. Now, let's get our sides in. Let's get our side in. So I'm going to come on down from this point here. And it can be kind of straight, but I'm going to have a little bit of a curve. And I'm going to stop and I'm going to say, all right, is that close enough to the bottom? Am I happy with that? I might bring it down just a little bit further. All right, so now I know the bottom point on this side. Let me bring you a little bit closer. All right, so I know the bottom point over here, so why don't we take another measurement? Bring it right on over. I'm just eyeballing where I think it's gonna be. All right, let's see. I'm gonna come on down. Don't overthink this. All right, I found that bottom point. Now let's get a nice kind of flattish bottom. And I hope everyone's having a good day. I've been like hungry all day and I can't figure out what I want. Hate that. All right. There we go. All right, let's get the top in. I'm just going to give it a top like that. We're going to work on that. We're going to add that top part, so don't you worry. Just get it started though, that looks good. All right, so let's add the rim. All right, so let's ask ourselves, should I add more to my basket? Or is that a good height and am I going to bring it down? Meaning the side of my basket, is it going to pop up here? Or am I going to come down this way? Let me just take a quick little look. Yeah, I'm going to totally pop up. So I'm going to add just a round little corner, like a parenthesis, and one on this side. And now I'm going to add that top again. It can be like a slight kind of dip to it. A lot of my flowers are going to be covering the very top of it. But that feels good. All right, let's add some color. I'm going to go ahead and put down my small brush because I'm done drawing for the moment. And I'm going to start introducing some brown. Now, in this basket here, I have, I decided that this side here was going to be my lighter side. This side here was a little bit darker. So my light source is coming from that way. And so my goal here, I'm going to use brown and white, maybe a little bit more white on this side, or I could do it all one and then add a little bit of light highlights here and there later. So maybe kind of like a little bit of lighter and darker, but don't overthink that at all. So let's go ahead. I'm going to use a brush about this size, and I'm going to dip on into my white, scoop up my brown. You know how I like to have multiple colors on my brush, and let's see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead in. Now, I'm just kind of getting the paint on, but I think I am going to start painting it this way, back and forth, horizontal. Also, our lines that we just created, those are just like pencil marks, so I am going to paint over them because I don't want them to stick out. I do want them to just blend away in my basket. So I'm going to continue with white and brown. And just a reminder, if you think you made a mistake or you did something that you want to get rid of, instead of just covering it up with paint, erase it with just a piece of paper towel. So the light brown is actually just brown and white. That's all I'm using for the base of my basket. You could definitely, Carol, you could definitely add a little bit of orange or a little bit of yellow to your brown-white combination to add some interest. But it's really up to you of how you want your basket to look. I'm going to add a little bit more brown to my white brown combo on this side, maybe just get it a little bit darker. But like I said earlier, I'm going to go back in and add all kinds of layers, so I'm not really concerned. This is just our first layer. So I'm just thinking about how my basket is round and full, so my brush stroke, I'm just kind of playing with that, kind of a slight curve, allowing there to be lights and darks, maybe focusing on one side being darker or lighter. Alright, that feels good. I'm going to go ahead and add the same combination, white and brown, or if you feel like it, you can definitely add the orange to it. So white, brown, just going right around that line. And I'm not even worrying about the top here right now because my flowers and leaves are all going to be kind of covering it. I just happened to make my rim of my basket a little lighter, but like I said, we're going to add shadow, a shadow for the bottom edge and a highlight and all that, so no worries there. Alright. So remember, in painting and in art, there are a lot of kind of uncomfortable stages in our work, and what we have to keep thinking to ourselves is that all these different stages will get there. We'll get to the stage where it all comes together. So just be patient and you'll be fine. Alright, so I'm going to give my brush, I'm going to continue with this brush, but I'm going to just give it a nice wash wipe. So I usually, or always, wipe my brush off first, give it a nice wash, and then wipe again. Alright, so let's take a look . Sarah, you got this. Funny. So we're gonna get, this is gonna be like layers, all right? We're gonna have patience, so we got this. We're gonna do some beautiful green, just kind of getting a big mass of green on there. Then we're gonna go in and just kind of redefine our edges, allowing some areas to hang down on both sides, some kind of bumps up here and there. And then we're going to go in with a darker green. If you don't have a darker green, you can definitely make one. If you have, so a blue, maybe adding some red to your green to create a little bit darker, richer. And then I kind of went in and hit some spots, and we'll do it all together. Don't worry, but yeah. So we're going to get this big green blob, and then we'll start carving out our plant and our plants. Okay, so this is gonna be fun. So I'm using Craft Smart. I'm using Craft Smart acrylic, and I'm using grass green, and I am using apple tart. Okay. So let's go ahead, and my brush is clean, and I'm going to dip on into my light green, wiping on both flat sides. I'm really just going to kind of map out my greens first, and then we'll go in and add all that detail. So maybe on this first pass, you're not going to get as high as your final greens, right? Think about where your basket handle is going to be, if there's enough room for the top. So that's going to kind of determine how high your mound of flowers is. So I'm going to look over here, and I'm just going to look at it and just kind of make a dot here, maybe one over here, just kind of mapping out. Maybe it gets a little lower on this side here. I just have 3 dots kind of showing like a high point, medium, and a low. Alright, now I'm going to go in, and I'm just going to start. I'm just going to put my brush down, and I'm going to make I'm just going to show you some in here. Just kind of some like curves, U's, upside down U's ends, and just adding. So I know that's my highest. Now I'm just going to kind of go down here, slowly kind of. Remember, it gets a little crazy. It's okay. Enjoy those stages. Alright, so I kind of have a little bit of a building of my greens here. And let's see. I'm going to go ahead on the side. I'm going to drop down maybe a little bit, and then I'll build back up to get to over there. I'm just doing little curves. And then for my hanging parts over here, I'm just going to use the whole bottom of my brush or the corner, and I'm just going to kind of tap something like that. Other side, just really something like that. The more you kind of just breathe into it and just kind of let the paintbrush take over, the better it is. Alright, so now I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to do a really quick green fill. I'm just going to just quickly getting in our base coat. Oh, also, when I was painting these last few days, I'm working on a dog, and the dog is sitting in a big pile of leaves, and there's just like 5 million leaves in this picture, and I'm like, all right, how am I going to go about this, you know? So how I went about it was blocking in shapes of color, just like we're doing here. So we're blocking in our big shapes of color, and then we'll block in smaller blocks of color and smaller until you get to the point where you can just do tiny little fun little details. So something that was like really daunting, and I was like, I mean, this is going to take me like a year to do, but I just broke it down to shapes, and I broke it down to lights and darks. So at first I just had big shapes of crazy colors. They weren't leaves, they were just shapes of color. And now I'm starting to go back in, finally, that fun stage where I can really play with my little details and add veins into some of them. It takes a little while to get to that really, like, it's like baking. Some people really like decorating the cakes, right? And don't really care for, the ingredients part. Maybe that's kind of me. I don't know, for painting. But I really love that little detail, that, the final kind of pass through and everything comes together. But I have to go through all those steps to get there. All right, I'm talkative today, I'm sorry. Okay. Cool. All right, let's do this. We're going to start really adding our second layer, breaking down the shapes. So that's our first. We know when we look at a plant, the leaves are green, right? And now we know that there's some variations. There's sometimes leaves have multiple greens in them. Shadows. Shadows of them layering on top of each other. Shadows of a leaf kind of curving and casting shadow on itself. So let's go ahead and really just start playing with the same thing. I'm going to play with my dark green. I'm going to play with some yellow. And let's focus on this side right here for a moment. And I'm going to bring you close because you're really going to see that it's simple marks. Whoop. My phone just said something. I don't know what it said. But anyway. So let me bring you over here. So here are those little marks, which are just like my brush pulling, making a little shape. If you have a filbert, if you have one that is round like this, see, it's flat, but it has a round tip. That might be fun to use. I'm going to stick with my flat. And I'm going to start adding some of these over here. So I'm going to dip on into my green. And I'm going to go over here. And I'm just going to start kind of introducing some individual leaves on top. Maybe adding some yellow in there as well. Ooh, that was a little heavy with the yellow. Add some more green. That's why, I didn't wipe my brush off, and I should know better. But there we go, all taken care of. Just gonna think about how these are going. Now this is pass number 2. I'll probably do another one, or maybe 2 more. So this isn't our final for our leaves. This is just starting to define, and I'm going to have this plant, this little white plant, flowers, is going to be, on this side, and then it comes again on this side here, right? So just kind of mapping out where these little flowers are, or leaves, and don't overthink it. I'm allowing it to just marble right on my canvas. So I'm using the edge of my brush. I'm using it in putting my brush down, just kind of whoop, just turning it, maybe thinking about how a leaf might be going this way. I think that looks great. Maybe there's like a little, I have a few little guys poking in over here. So instead of maybe grab those now, or I can always add them later. But I'll just do it right now because I feel like it. Let's see. 1, 2, something like that. We always can add more. All right, onto this side here. We have the same plant over on this side of our basket. So I'm going to just start building my leaves. Now, like I was saying with the painting I'm working on of the dog and the leaves, blocking in the colors, blocking in the shapes, I could go back. I don't have like vein details in these leaves here, but maybe tomorrow, after, you know, sitting with it, looking at it, maybe I'll go in and add a few veins in my leaves here and there. But for now, I'm really just enjoying adding these shapes of marbling color. And there's all kinds of styles of art, right? There's realism, photorealism, impressionists, all different kinds. So sometimes we have this like image in our head of like, you know, it has to be like, look just like a picture. But sometimes, you know, what's the fun in that? I mean, yeah, that's great, but allowing yourself to have that artistic license and in making those marks or changing something when you know, maybe in real life it's not like that, but I have the power to change that. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I have these sides all set. Now I'm going to go ahead and add these fun leaves over here. Let's see if I have, I do. Ooh, okay. So with my big leaves over here, don't mind all from our other event. So I can go in with maybe both greens on my brush. And these leaves are fun because it's just a bump, and a bump. There are 3 bumps, and then I just kind of fill in. And let me just kind of show you. I'll do it again. But I just want to show you. Whoop. Ooh, hello, out my window. All right. Show you with my hand, just kind of showing you like the size, right, of my leaves. And see the bump, 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 and then the bumps going this way. Bump, bump, bump. Maybe you don't see all of them, every single one. I think I just have like 2 here. I'm going to have flowers laying on top. And I'm just playing with them. I'm having some darks, some lights show through. I could go in on top of here with some dark and light on my brush. And then I'm just going to, using my brush, here's my edge. It's on the kind of like a 45-degree angle. Can you see that? Where am I? Here I am. And I'm just going to make 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to go in, I can go in with my darker green and just kind of focus it up there. We'll do this together on the big canvas. But I just kind of wanted to show you. All right, let's do it. Alright, so I'm going to start with my light green and a little bit of my dark green on my paintbrush. I'm wiping on both flat sides. You could definitely use your a smaller flat brush, or like I showed you that filbert, that would be a nice brush to do this with as well. But I'm going to go ahead, I already have one kind of started here, right? I have a high point. I'm going to finish that off. So I'm just going to go in 1, 2, 3, just let it be, kind of with the bumps on top, I'm kind of just going with it. Something like that. You don't have to, because we have that green background, we don't need to add cover every single spot, because we're gonna have our flowers there. We know that there's greens back there that might be kind of out of focus and we don't see the exact shape, but I do see a little bit of that color. So I'm just gonna continue on 1, 2, 3. Change the bump direction, so I have them going down. I have them going this way. I'm gonna do one, maybe straight up. 1, 2, kind of on the side, but the canvas kind of tells you. Let's do one over here. 1, 2, 3. 1. It's kind of defining that. I'm gonna go in and play with the edges. Let's see. Here, maybe kind of overlapping some of them. And I'm going to do one more here for now, and then we'll start playing with adding some detail to our 2, 3. And I'm going to add some little leaves in between some of them later. So we can, I'm going to let this dry for a little bit, and then I'm going to add some more detail to those leaves later. But let's go and play a little bit more with these beautiful flowers here. I'm trying to think. I feel like we did, I don't remember which painting it was, but I know we've done one that had something kind of similar to this. To those. And I'm going to be using the light green, and I'm going to be using white to start, allowing that to marble on the canvas. I'm going to stick with my white grip brush, but you could use whatever brush makes you happy. So white and some green. And this one, super fun. I'm going to make, I think I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 over on this side. They're kind of just doing whatever they like. I have a couple in here, 1, maybe 2, 3, 4, here and there. So what I'm going to do is, using the edge of my brush, I'm going to create, and your basket will tell you kind of where they want to go. But I'm going to add just a line like that. I'm going to have green and white right on my brush. And now I'm going to start using, now let me show you with my hand. So my brush, I'm going to use kind of the corner, ooh, hello, there we go, and just kind of push. So I'm leaning back on that corner, lean back, and I get kind of like that cool leaf shape. So I'm going to use the bottom edge, but I'm putting that corner down, and then I just push, and I get that mark. You can practice, don't overthink it. Alright, so I'm just going to go in and start adding these little leaves. And I'm going to add some more white, kind of add another layer. I can go right on top. I can add some darker greens later or now, whatever feels good. I'm kind of liking this light. Alright, so I have one. I'll put my purple flowers on there later. Let's see. And if you wanted to do your kind of like the stem with a smaller brush, I'm using just the like bottom edge of my bottom of my brush to get that line, and then I'm just going in doing that little lean. Gonna go back, kind of touch it here and there with a little bit more white on my brush, just allowing it to marble. And you know what, I think I'm gonna go grab a smaller brush because I have like a bigger one. Maybe this one's a little further back and it's smaller, so I'm gonna grab a smaller brush just so I can get that effect, because I do like how it gives depth into my painting. So I'm going to use this one here, and I'm just going to create a little bit of a smaller one. Alright, so I'm going to put one here. Again, your basket will kind of show you step back and just see where they want to be placed. And I'm still using that corner lean back technique. Maybe leaving a little bit more space in between. Some of them are lots of leaves, some of them are a little bit more spaced out. I'm going to have one that's going to kind of curve right off. It can go all the way off your canvas, saying that there's more beyond, or you can keep it on your canvas, whatever you like. Just like in anything, once you get your basics down, you really can do anything. So just getting used to using your paintbrush, just getting used to blending, just getting used to layering, having control with your paint, you know, getting to know all your materials, then you can really, you know, your projects can, you know, expand. You can make, you know, more intricate pieces. So get the basics down, get really comfortable with your tools, and just play with your tools as well. You know, try out, buy different kinds, find out which ones you like. I'm really going to suggest and push that, you know, let's get some, you know, a different kind of paint. Let's see what that does. This is great to start with, but if you're loving painting, it's time to step up. And I'll share some of my paints. They're not expensive at all. I'll share with you, you know, some names that you can, I'm sure, you know, Michael's will be open soon, or you can just buy online, whatever. So I'm just going in, adding a few more. Alright, and I think I'm going to have one more right about here. And I can just, if you're like, well, I'm not quite sure, you know, I'm not sure if I want another one, hold off. Just, you know, you always can add one later. I like to have one at the top, so top straight up, and then I go from side to side. I can even do one right in the middle. Remember, it's not like a book open, it's like, it's your book fanned out, so think of it full. Might bring this one up a little bit higher. Step back, check out what's happening. Now that I have my smaller brush, I think I'm going to go in here and add some interest to these leaves here. So I'm going to go in maybe with some yellow. It's still a little wet. If it wasn't, I could always add more of that green to kind of blend it, like I will right now. So I have a private event every Friday with a group, and we've been doing colored pencils. I know I've been saying you know, we should do it together on here. I really truly do think that it's super helpful to, you know, like I was saying, playing with different materials or different tools. Colored pencil, I think, would be so helpful in painting, to, you know, really understand and just kind of play. Today we're doing a magnolia flower. I think, Sarah, I know you've done, I think I have 2 on here on Facebook, but I know I will. I'm planning on it, I promise. Sometimes it takes me a little while to get everything done, but I promise we'll have some fun with that. Alright, so I went in with a little bit of yellow to kind of make it a little bit more interesting and not so flat. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of dark green, and I'm just going to kind of hit here and there. I'm not going to outline my leaves, so, you know, I'm going to have a full outline. I'm just going to kind of hit a few little points here and there. I think that looks good. Holding your brush maybe a little further back, standing up, stepping back. Here and there hitting. Okay, I like that so far. So I'm gonna let this dry for a minute, and I'm gonna go down to my basket. I'll let you guys just touch up on your leaves for another moment or two. I'm gonna give my brushes a wash wipe, and then we'll get started just adding a few more layers to our basket. Like I said earlier, this is something that you can continue to work on, so don't feel like you have to finish it all today or in this hour or so. But we got this. All right, I'm gonna give my brushes a quick little wash. Alright, so I'm going to be using my long brush, my smaller flat, the one that I like to draw with or have a nice controlled mark. And we are going to just take a break from our flowers and greens for a moment and focus on our basket. Now, it's weaved, right? So I'm going to have lights and darks, which will create. Also, think of how it's kind of bumpy with the, I don't think it's called straw, but I don't remember what it's called. How it's bumpy because it's weaved together, woven. And also I have that light source, right? I have my light source over here, lighter, darker. Maybe the bottom will be a little bit darker too. Just think about how our rim of our basket is rounded, right? If you were to put your hand on it, and how there might be a shadow cast, then there might be a highlight, and then there's another shadow from your flowers and leaves, which you always can add later. Alright, so let's go ahead and dip on into the brown paint, wipe off on both flat sides. And at any time, if you have a question, just let me know. If you want to send me a picture of your work and have me take a look at it later, and I can give you some pointers. I can do a little video and send it to you. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and add some vertical lines, and I'm thinking about how, if I were to touch that basket, right, how it's kind of full, right? So thinking about how those lines are curving. So I'm going to start right about here. And whatever brush makes you happy, you can hold your canvas however you like, whatever feels good. Brought that down, it curves around that bottom. And now I'm going to think about how wide I want each piece to be, how far apart, right? So I'm just going to move over a little bit. I'm coming down, thinking about how it's curving under. Move over, go down, all the way across. Now, on the bottom here, I'm going to start connecting the bottom. And if I wanted to, I could go all the way across on the bottom, almost like making little W's or waves at that bottom. Just showing that we have that beautiful basket. Alright, wiping on both flat sides, maybe starting from the top or bottom. And I'm not overthinking this. just getting my lines in. I always have the opportunity to go back. Now it's curving this way, right? So we have kind of a curve going this way. Now it's going this way on the side. All right. Just going to kind of clean up my edge right here. On the top of my rim of my basket, the pieces are kind of curving over just like we did on our basket long way, but just think of how it's wrapping around. So it might have a little bit more of a curve. Now I'm really curving, and now I'm going to start getting a little bit more straight as I come into the middle. And then once I get to the very middle point, I'm going to slightly start turning that curve. Don't overthink it. We'll add more details to it later. You always can go back. So now the horizontal lines that are in my basket, I'm going to be very free with these. I'm going to use that edge and I'm curving. Now get a brush that feels good to have enough control and that you feel good making these marks. There's slight curves, slight kind of a smile to them. They can be staggered or right next to each other, whatever you think your basket, however you made it. So I'm going to go in over here and you can definitely add some white to your lines here if you'd like. I'm going to probably go back and do that later. But for now, I'm just getting my lines in. I'll soften it. I am going to stagger, so I'm going to put one here in between, kind of, in the rows. Just going to continue on. And right now, you know, it's a little intense of a contrast, but I'm going to go back. Get loose, don't be too tight. Wipe your brush off on both flat sides. Find a brush that feels good. Curving. We'll finish the edges in just a moment. So that's step 2 of our basket. We have another one coming. It actually looks pretty cool right now. Kind of bold and I like it. But I'm going to do one more to kind of bring it all together and add a little bit more depth to it. So the part that we did that white and brown combo, we're gonna go back on top of that and give it a little bit of form to it, a little bit of pop, because it's a little flat right now on this one. So remember that light source. My light source is coming from this side here, so I'm going to go a little bit lighter and get darker over here, which is really going to give our basket a nice rounded feel. I'm going to start with white and a little bit of brown. I'm going to just mix it on my plate just so I have a little puddle of it. So just sticking my brush into the white, putting it down on my plate, adding a little bit of brown. Just like that. And I can, change if I want it darker. Once I put it up there, I always can add some more. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I have the nice woven pieces going that way. Now I'm going to go in and use the curve again on top of that light brown section now. So it's already, it's already there because we did the base coat. But now I'm giving it a little bit of an oomph and a little bit of a form. I'm going to maybe go in and just wipe my brush and add a little bit of white to it and hit here and there. Oh, especially on this side, these two rows here. This is going to be my lightest and brightest. I can go back later and add highlights too. Right now I could just be focusing on giving it a little bit of a fluffy woven feel. Oh yeah, now it's starting to come to life, right? A little bit more rounded. All right, as I go across, I'm going to just get a little bit darker as I go. So to that light brown, maybe adding just a little bit more. I do like that kind of marbling. Turning my brush on its edge if I need to get into some smaller areas. And this is it's not precise, it's not tight. I'm being very playful. Not all of the sections are equally distance. Adding a little bit more white. And if I do kind of cover up my dark brown line, that's fine. I can go back in, right? We can go right back in on top. Hey, Pa. What's for dinner, Pa? So just going in, adding that curve. Starting to really have some more form. It's not so flat anymore. Just continuing. Allowing, when I'm doing this step here, I don't have to cover, we already have that base down, you know what I mean? So this is like another layer of the straw or whatever this basket is made out of. Maybe thinking, should I get a little bit darker? Maybe. Having the opportunity, or knowing I have the opportunity to do 2 more coats, 3 more coats, 1 more coat, so. Just continuing. This is kind of like nice. It's you're doing the same little pull and tap across. You're kind of like in a groove. It's also making me want chocolate. Ooh, chicken from Martini's. Alright. Sounds... I'm a little jealous, but that's okay. Okay, on my edge here, I'm going to just think about how it could be kind of like bulging out a little bit. So I'm just curving, doing that same kind of curve motion that we did in our leaves, but the rounded part is pointing out. So on my edge here, I want to show that this basket, so this is like, you don't have to get as big as that, but just kind of show you, I want to show that I have that nice texture. And I can go back in, because I think I lost a little bit of my darker. Alright, I like that. I'm going to go on this side here, and with that lighter, I'm going to do the same thing with those little bumps, but I'm going to do it on this side. Just taking my time. Again, whatever size brush works best for what you're doing and how you feel comfortable with it. What I like, you might not like, and that is fine. I'm going to just darken a little bit of these bottom rows. Why not? And if I need to touch up on any of those darker points, I totally could. But I think I'm going to let that be for now. And if you're like, I'm not done, don't worry. You can continue. You either can continue on it right now, or you can go back. I think I'll probably do a few highlights on top of this later. That feels good. Now let's go to our rim again. Like I was saying, it wraps down, right? So think of it touching it, right? So it wraps, it's round like this. And so it's going to have a darker bottom edge. Maybe in the middle it's going to be my lightest. And then maybe I'll cast some shadow of my leaves. Now, I don't have to do all this at once, right? Also, it's not like a rectangle. It's not a perfect shape. I'm just using the tips I'm going to pull up. So if you're like really worried about getting like a perfect mark, don't worry about it. We're just getting some shadow in and just shapes of color that are nice and loose. So to do this, I'm going to use the same brush. I'm going to dip on into the brown paint, but I'm going to wipe off quite a bit. So I'm wiping off quite a bit. All right. Now, on that bottom, I'm going to just kind of clean up. Let me bring you close so you can see. Just clean up a little bit. I don't have very much paint on there, so I'm just kind of rubbing it. And then I'm going to pull up. And it is in the same type of little curve as we were doing the original lines, right? Keep that pull. Now, building up slowly so I can do multiple passes. cleaning up the bottom, flat, then pull up, clean up that bottom edge. Watch out for my leaf. I'm using the whole bottom. All right, that looks great to me. I'm going to add a little bit of that lighter highlight, which is just white and brown. And I'm going to just add, once you put it down, you know if you need to get lighter or darker. Tapping it off because you don't want too much. And just kind of, you know, tapping. In this like middle section, and it doesn't have to be solid. So I moved to this apartment in February, and I see no sign, but I hear people beeping at the house, like I think it's like a house over, like multiple times a day, and I want to know why. Like, why are we beeping? Someone tell me. So I'm cleaning up that bottom, pulling up. I just cleaned up that bottom, did a second pass. Now I'll go back with that lighter color. And I'm going to leave my shadow that I'm going to put down. I'll leave that, get my leaves in, and then at the end I'll add a little bit more shadow. I think that looks nice. All right, we're getting there. Let's go ahead and add our base shadow here. So I'm going to just, with flat brush strokes, going out from the bottom. So black and white, let's see what happens. I could use a bigger brush, my white grip, if I wanted. And this is where I can really carve out that bottom. Pulling out. Maybe I'll add a little bit of white to kind of soften this. Yeah, I think I may grab my little bigger brush. A little bigger. All right, I'm going to grab my other brush so we can just soften this out. Soften my edges. So again, that black and white. And as the shadow goes out, it gets lighter. So as it goes away from my basket, so I'm just adding more white and just brushing it on that edge. Whoop, I got some brown on that. And if you really wanted to, you could think about that shadow, right? It could be heavier on this side, like we kind of played with on our basket to create that roundness. Or you could just kind of have it flat. Something like that. I think I'm going to just lighten this back corner. A little bit. All right, yeah, that feels good. So I added that grounded that quite nicely. All right, so we're going to take a break from our basket. We're going to finish up with our flowers and then add our little handles. and we can add our little decorative piece. Of course, you can finish this at a later time if you want to take a little break. Or kind of like I was saying earlier, we're just kind of mapping in or getting in those big shapes, going back, adding multiple layers to create our detail. Alright, so I'm going to stick with my big brush, my white grip flat for these flowers here. And what's great about these, they're very easy and don't have to worry about too much about them, right? They are just made up of kind of like big loops. I have four petals on these flowers here. I went with red. I could do multiple layers of red to get it as intense as I'd like. I then went in with a little bit of pink, kind of just hitting it for a little bit of pop. And I added a few little pink dots in the centers here. We'll do that together. Let's see. I think I need some pink on my plate. Okay. So, again, your painting will kind of tell you where. And it's very similar to the shape of my leaf, but I just have one more bump. So if your leaves are still wet, you can either let them dry and just kind of watch, or you could grab a blow dryer and give it a quick blow dry. I'll show you on this real quick. I'm just going to do a bump, bump, 3, 4. And I mean, you could do it whatever shape you kind of like. You could do 5, you could do 6 petals, whatever you like. I'm just going to do these big 4 petals here. Zintas, I believe, or something like that they're called. Okay, so I'm going to do one here. 1, 2, 3, and one more, 4. And they all don't have to be the same size because maybe one's kind of bending behind. So that looks good to me. Let's see. I think I want one right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can play with the size, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe 1. Let's see. Here. 1, 4. I'm going to do one over here. Alright, I might add some more or some leaves or more down there, but for now I feel good with that amount. I'm going to grab my smaller brush. Okay. And I'm going to make these simple little white flowers. Now they are just like we did with our leaves, these leaves here. That kind of lean. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use 4 petals and I'm using white. So I can have, you can introduce some green to them if you'd like, but I'm going to stick with white for now. And let me just show you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Doesn't have to be perfect because they can be bending and all that. Let's do a couple more. 2, 4. Maybe only 3 are showing on that one. Remember we talked about, you know, different angles. You would see different. You'd only see 2 or 1 petal. Maybe it's hiding and the leaves poking out just a little bit. I'm going to kind of step back, see where I need to add some. I'm going to do one here. Maybe 2 little leaves popping, or petals popping out there. Alright, I think I'm just going to do a couple here. Maybe I'll add some more little leaves down there later. So again, we have the opportunity to add more detail. Take our time. Maybe have some dinner and come back. Don't forget dessert. Maybe just 2 little petals showing there. If you're like, well, I think that might be too bright. Maybe it's too white. You can go in with a little bit of maybe some pink or a little bit of like green. Here's a little bit of like the light green. I'm just kind of tapping my knot. So I do have some spaces now that I see. So I have the opportunity to add some filler, or I can just let be. I think I'm going to add just a few leaves here. Let's see, maybe I'll add one of these guys. That's that 3 bump. Add a little bit of yellow. Let's see. I think I need some of these little ones. And again, I don't need to fill in every little section. All right, I think that looks great for now. Let's go ahead and add just our little purpley pink flowers. I think I need some purple on my plate. If you don't have purple, blue, and red, or you can just use pink, or you can use any color you'd like. Same kind of push and lean back to create the flowers of the long plant that we created the same way. So I'm just going to see what white, purple, and pink do. And they're just kind of sitting right in those leaves, so I'm just going to kind of tap on that corner. You could go over some of these with another leaf, right? Because maybe there's some leaves covering, they're not all just sitting on the surface. Kind of interesting. Remember, our plants, trees, and all that, it's not like a part in your hair where you have like the hair split, right? This piece here can have one in the center. It doesn't have to just be on the right and on the left, right? Because if I turn that, it's going to be in the middle. Make sense? Grows all the way around. All right, that feels good. All right, I'm going to grab my detail brush for my little pink details in my red flowers. And I'm going to start with the fun part. I'm going to start with using the back of my brush, the back end, tapping on into that pink paint. And I'm just going to do a couple little dots in the center. I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 3, however many you'd like. Then I'm going to add a little pink, roll my brush on the side, just getting the extra paint off and tightening my bristles. And here and there, just on the tips, kind of defining where one petal overlaps another, where the light's hitting on it, or maybe it's just part of the flower. Maybe the flower has these beautiful pink accents to them. So I'm just going in. If you need to do a second coat of your red on your flowers, you definitely can do that. Just here and there. I don't have to do all of them. I am going to add a few buds in there, but for now I'm just going to let that be because I'm going to put the handle of my basket in, and then I'll know where I want to add those final little details. So if you're still going, you know you can go back. Let me just get this, show you what this next step is. All right, so with my basket here, I have this front here, and then it goes back. So I have a flat piece here, and then I'll show the other side going back with just a little sliver. See that? Now, I'm going to think about how high I want my basket handle. Then I'll know, because I want them to have the same height, so then I'll know how the other one is, right? So I'm just going to kind of look and see where it's connecting. Mine's connecting right underneath my little rim here. So I have, if I were to just draw a line, it's a slight curve. Let's just see my paintbrush. It's straight, so it's a slight little curve. And then I'll just make it a little bit thicker. Just showing with my finger how thick that is. All right. I'm going to start with that same combo, that white and brown combo. And if anything's wet over here, just be aware of it. And I'm going to kind of see where I want my two handles to start. So thinking about the placement of the connecting part. I think right here looks good for me. Now I'm going to just figure out how high. Think right about here. I'm going to have a slight curve. All right. So if I look at the top here, I have a slight angle. Don't overthink this. So I kind of have like a 7. Now I'm going to come back down, or I can just kind of paint and add thickness to it, whatever feels good. And if your leaves and all that are really wet, you can let it dry. I'll just paint over mine. If yours are wet, either grab your blow dryer or just let it dry and come back to this, but I just want to show you. Down. Just slowly bringing down. Maybe I should show you this way. Slowly building up that thickness because I don't want to go too big, too fast. I'm going to add that bottom edge right there. That looks good. I'll clean that up a little bit more. I'm just going to add a little bit of brown, and I'm going to do the back side. So I know that my flower is inside my basket. So in my case here, on this one, I didn't have anything in the way, so I could see the whole thing. This one here, I have a little friend, so I'm going to skip, and I just have a little bit of the other side showing through. Like that. Now I can go in and just add any dark shadows or grain of my wood. I'll add my little connecting little button right there and just a little. I know, I'm sorry, Sarah. All right, so now I know that I have the length here I'm going to just take that measurement and I'm going to think about how it is attached to my basket. Let's look over here again. So it's on an angle and it's going to come down and then up. So I know from the top here on an angle, that's going to be about the length of my handle. All right. So I took the measurement and now I'm going to do the same. I have the length already. I know I'm going to kind of see, I already have, this is another measurement I have from the edge to this part here because I want it to be equal. Edge to my handle, edge to my handle. So it's going to start here and it's going to curve down. Curve. And I'm going to have that round tip. And your basket will tell you, and your basket can be a little bit different than mine. That's fine. But we all know, we can picture it, right? I'm slowly building, keeping in mind the width of this handle here. All right, so I have that front part. Now I'm going to add the back edge, which is going to be darker, and it goes behind. So from here, like that, I'm going to add a little bit of darkness or a little bit more of that high thickness. That's what I meant, thickness. I'm just thinking about what part's in front of what. So now I kind of need to clean this up a little bit. Just take your time, step back, think about how your handle's going. I'm going to darken this side here. And I could add like 10 more layers, right? We could add as many layers and add as many details as we'd like. Great. All right. So I think I'm going to do a little video of just the little whale detail, and I will post that a little later, just because I want to really show you how I'm going to go about it, and I'll give some other options of decorative pieces. Like I said, maybe like a sand dollar or a shell. But for now, I think we have a lot to, go back and add our details to. Let's add just our few little pieces of little buds that I have. What I'm talking about is this one here. And then this guy here. I have another one right here. Fun and easy. So I'm going to start. I'm going to stick with my long brush because I like it. And I'm going to use that bottom edge, dipping into the green, wiping on both flat sides. Thinking about where it's coming from, looking at my picture. I have mine on this one, start on this side, but I think I want to have it on the right, this side, off this side here. So I'm going to go up and keep in mind, slow, being aware of your brush. I'm going to have one little stem popping off, thinking of how thick you're going. And now I'm going to switch colors to my red, and I'm going to add this little bud, which is almost like a little egg shape or an oval. I'm not overthinking it. I'll add a little highlight to it later. Now I'm just going to let that dry for a moment before I add the leaves that kind of hold it. And I'm going to add just the same red little dots or eggs, ovals in here. And I can play with the size and the direction where I feel I need. Let's do one here where I need a little bit of interest or pop. All right, nice. So I'm going to add just a little cup that kind of holds that little bud in, which is just going to be my green. I can use a little dark green if I want to add a little bit of, and I'm just going to make a little dash, a little dash. So I'm doing the same, just using the edge of my brush, just showing where it's kind of holding in. I could add leaves on that. I could add some interest of maybe to the green, so it's not just one flat. I could add another set of these maybe over here, or I can say, well, maybe I need another one of these curving this way. So this is where we're going to kind of stop for now. I will, like I said, do another video with our decoration to our basket, a few options, and we can add a few more details. But I think we have a lot to work on. I'm going to let this dry. I'll add a little bit of a highlight in my buds, but we'll do that. But I think I want to go in and really play with maybe adding some more flowers here and there, or maybe a flower on the bottom, or adding more details into my basket. So I think that's a good time to kind of stop and have some dinner and think about what we want to add to our basket. I hope you had fun. This is definitely something that you can, if you have any questions, send me a picture. Ask the question, whatever you want in your question. We can video chat. I can either send you a video of it or just make a few comments in our message and just what I would suggest. And yeah, let this sit and just kind of look at it for a little bit. And yes, thank you, Sarah. Good. I can't wait to see yours. Send it to me if you want any, if you want me to look at it, give you any advice or anything like that. But I think this came out really awesome. And like I said, we'll come back to it, and I'm going to go over that whale and other options for our basket design. And go back into any of our details into our flowers. But yay, I think we did good, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your night. Yay, Friday. So yeah, send me some questions. If you need any help, let me know. But thank you so much for painting with me today, and I will see you all soon. All right, bye my friends. Bye.